are back. We are back. And I go by the name of the Ear Doctor. And your host today, we got Dr. Jared Ball. We got Kamal Franklin. And we got Kalanji John Matranka. Let's go.
See what happens? You take a week off, you forget your name.
Yeah, to read your name. Like, what's this cat name?
I'm like, what's his name again?
Like, who's that dude again?
McGillicuddy. What's going on?
You think.
What's good, y'all?
Slightly hurt.
Man.
Right.
Morning, everybody.
What's up, good people?
All right?
It's good to see everybody again.
Yo, it's the remix. It feels good. We back again. You know what I mean? What's poppin'?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of your official Boom Bap Breakfast. And I will say this.
Okay.
On some, it's good to get a break. It's good to take a vacation. It's good to recharge the batteries, etc. We ran out the gate heavy, sprinting.
Yes.
But in that time off, yes, I did attempt to hold it down for us a little bit. But in that time off, I did peep the what is supposed to be our competition a little bit. And I just want to shout out our remixers and our BPM crew, because it's not hate, it's not personal. It's on some levels political. On some levels, it's the collective talent and genius we all bring. But the bottom line is nobody's doing what we're doing.
Zero.
Nobody's even attempting. I can't find anywhere in the English-speaking world. I'll say that.
That's right.
In the English-speaking diaspora.
Wait, hold on.
I can't find anyone doing what we're doing.
This brother just say the English-speaking world.
Because I admit I'm woefully monolingual, a little bit of Spanish, but for the most part, I'm not, so I don't know what others, what's happening in other languages, I can't speak, but what I can find, what I can understand, I don't see it happening. So we are necessary.
Hey, Kalanji, what happened to your polo?
Oh yeah, man. I wasn't invited to the polo club. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's down. I had to come in with the abolitionist shirt. You know what I'm saying? I'm a field Negro, so you know what I'm saying?
Get back out there.
Yeah, I'm staying out there. You know what I mean? Y'all a little light out there, so
look,
light ass.
We can't have Kalanji in every meeting. You know what I'm saying?
Can't have it in every meeting.
Every meeting.
Remember what happened last time?
Nothing we get done.
Remember last time I was in the meeting with y'all. But anyway, what's happening, man? Man, it's been a heavy week though. I want to I know you got some things on the run sheet, but I want to jump ship and just say shout out Rise and Power Michael K. Williams. Yeah, you know what I'm saying that was a serious shocker. That brother was a great actor, choreographer, you know what I'm saying, and activist. You know what I'm saying? So definitely that came as a heavy duty shock. You know what I'm saying? Most people know him from The Wire. It's Omar Little. You know what I'm saying? Then some of us watch Boardwalk Empire. It's Chalky White. You know what I'm saying? And just so many other things or whatever, man. But he was actually a choreographer as well and a dancer. Touring with folks like George Michaels and Madonna. I was about to say McDonald's. Madonna and like so many. Same thing. But
absolutely.
54 years old.
He was a choreographer until they started sharing some videos on like Twitter and some other places.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow, that dude was.
That's how you got started. Yeah. That's how you got started in the industry. Backup dancing. Matter of fact, he choreographed Crystal Waters. What was that? That Pure Love video she did. You know what I'm saying? That was his work or whatever.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. But he was definitely a serious actor. He produced that joint down here in Atlanta, Snow on the Bluff. You know what I mean? That little serious little joint that highlighted what was going on in the Bluffs here in Atlanta, because of the fact that oftentimes when people think of Atlanta, you talk about this whole Black Mecca thing, but serious things go on in these streets. You know what I mean? So definitely.
And he was a hometown boy. He was from Brooklyn, yo.
Okay. Yeah. Born, bred, and transitioned.
Still live, yeah.
And that's where he left.
Afford those prices, but yeah.
True indeed.
Oh, right,
Now,
right.
He was co-founder. He was co-founder of this organization called We Build a Block as well. They were fighting over policing in New York, and I know he's working a lot with the youth out there. So he wasn't just a cat that was out of touch and out of step with reality. You know what I'm saying? He earned that scar on his face. You know what I'm saying?
And it's also, the news also came down that the comedian, I believe his name is pronounced Fuquan Johnson, also passed this weekend, along with another comedian and a couple friends, if I'm not mistaken. And both went out. If I understand the details, similarly, Michael went out with heroin, if I'm not mistaken, and Fuquan Johnson and his crew went out with cocaine and laced with fentanyl. So it's I mean, it's just rough, and all I can say, having profound respect for people who get caught up in that, because these are hell of a drugs. These are, it's just a risk out here. It's dangerous, and I even saw discussion on the Comedy Hype channel that I like to watch about Fuquan Johnson, and the sister on there was talking about that she had dabbled with what they call party drugs, as have I, and it's a risk. And in fact, I've even shared, the last time I did, 20 plus years ago now, I had that Mary J. Blige moment that she had talked about in her own experience, where I thought I had gone too far. And I saw the shadows coming up, and I'm where you are, Kamal, religiously. I don't get down with that, but I did see those shadows climbing up on the wall, and was like, I was like, this is it. I was like, this must be how it starts. So I just, it's just rest in peace to them, rest in power to them. I mean, and to everybody out there that struggles with these things, and the people that just dabble here and there, be careful, because like my man said in the movie Knocked Up, and rest in peace to him. I forgot him, the legendary Hollywood dude who said the line, but he said, would he tell his son, if it's pills and powders, stay away, but if it came from the earth, you probably gonna be okay. If you got to dabble at all, that's a good rule to live by.
I appreciate, and I'm sure, what I'm saying, the Black Power media audience, the remixes, so on and so forth out there, I'm sure they appreciate, you sharing what you just did, because of the fact that it's important, because of the fact that, we have histories before, quote unquote, activism and freedom fighting, and along with that, you know what I mean? So, it's a, the struggle, quote unquote, is real. You know what I'm saying? That's why we have to move beyond the struggle part and just, maintain the movement. So definitely salute to you, because of the fact that I'm sure right now there are folks that are, that are checking us out and that will check us out, that are struggling with some form of addiction. So we say that, man, let's fight together, man. It's part of this, part of warfare, man. That's what comes with war, Definitely.
The hardest thing for me though was getting rid of the cigarettes, and I still remember I quit the last time the Washington football team won the Super Bowl, January of 1992. I said, if they win, I'll quit, and they won.
And
I quit.
Is that Doug Williams? Or that's
no, that was I want to say that's Mark Rippon. That was Mark Rippon.
Okay.
But that's funny though, man. I mean, it was easier for you to quit cigarettes than folks to quit watching the NFL. Everybody was, they was down with Kaepernick for a few minutes, and then they dust them jerseys off once Jay-Z got the entertainment slot over at the
I'm not going
Super Bowl.
back. I've actually maintained that. But then again, I watch, I admit I watch world football, or what people call soccer, and that's just as bad in terms of the racism and the ownership and all the hypocrisy and contradiction. So I can't really, but I haven't gone back to pro football here in the United States like that. And but anyway,
I mean, you was gonna play though, right? When you plan on playing, or
I mean, that was the fantasy. I had the fantasy briefly, and it wasn't, it was not meant to be, and I think rightfully so. That was not where I was. That was not, But to your point about the previous lives, we all haven't been the upstanding, beautiful citizens we are now.
Yes,
so it is
distinguished
good
derelicts we are.
Distinguished derelict that we are. But straight up, man, it's that nicotine, boy. I still to this day will see somebody tapping it and opening up a pack of Newports or something and start getting. I'll be like, woof. had that initial, and then then I'm like, wait a minute, what you talking about, man? It's that's.
I think in a weird way.
but
My mom was a smoker. She smoked my whole life, and so that kind of was like a turn off. It was just like, I was like, I don't want to, whatever.
It's gross. I mean, you used to be in your hair and everything. It's gross.
But I don't know if I told the story on air, but when I went to Cuba, I came back with Cuban cigars, and I gave her a Cuban cigar, and then she replaced the cigarettes, the regular cigarettes, with Cuban cigars, and then I think I told like Philly blunts. Yeah, like real Philly blunts. Now she didn't hold them out. You know what I'm saying? She was smoking Philly blunts because she couldn't get her hands on Cuban cigars, of course, because it's like.
So she's smoking the 50-cent Phillies then, huh?
Yeah. Right up the block. Everybody thought it was bad.
Shout out to Mama Franklin with her Phillies.
No doubt. I see it now.
Go to the store, give me some of them cigars. I was like, okay, real cigars.
Hey, yo, so did she break the Phillies open, or was they just regular?
No, she smoked them like a cigar, bitch.
She smoked them like they were initially intended.
Like, exactly, like the initial intention. She was the only one using the product the right way.
Everybody looking at her like, you just lighting it like that?
Hey, yo, man.
What you doing?
Shout out to Mama Franklin. We're gonna make sure we get a Philly blunt deal. We're gonna have have her on posters with Philly blunts and whatnot.
See, we went quickly from. Yeah, we went. We was headed in the right direction. Now
it's a left turn.
That's why Kalanji can't be at every meeting, man.
That's why I can't be. Y'all should have told me.
Meeting, you know what I'm saying?
No meetings. Matter of fact, I'm done with meetings for the year. I'm meeting out. No meetings. All the way vegan. But anyway, boom. What we got popping today, man? I know
we got the ear doctor coming up. We got a number of stories to get to. Kamal's gonna bring some depth in an interview later on in the program. I don't know if you want to tease any of that at the moment. And we got a lot coming. Of course, it's the remix. What you think?
I'll say really quickly. Labor Day just passed. Even though it's not the real Workers' Day, the real Workers' Day is May 1st. But Labor Day just passed, so we're going to have somebody from labor coming on from Power Coalition, Ashley Shelton, talking about the labor struggle today. So.
Okay, Kamal coming back with a guest out the box. He said, man, we took a week off. I'm coming back with a guest immediately.
That's all I'm going to do for the rest of the year.
I know. Your trust. It's a national holiday.
A lot of work. You had to make phone calls. I was like, what the hell, B?
Man, you had to make a whole phone call.
Yeah, man.
A whole phone call.
Did you use a pay phone?
There ain't no payphones no more. What year are you in, B?
Hey, man, we do.
I was going to say, is there a payphone?
Did you use a payphone?
I mean, somewhere in the world there's a payphone.
Our audience was just to forgive old man Kalanji.
Speaking of payphones, we're going to put a quarter in the jukebox and call our man, the ear doctor, on board. You know what I mean? See what's popping. Let you flash by real quick. Oh, there he is.
In and out. Yo, my green screen ain't working right now, but we're going to get it back going, and we're gonna make sure we get Mama Franklin some cigarillos.
Which one ain't working? Your green shirt or the green screen? I couldn't hear that.
Oh, the green shirt is on par, baby.
Okay.
My bad. I didn't know what you were saying. My bad.
You got that Sylvie Johnson on today, man.
I ain't got my clouds and all that, and I'm about to do the weather report. I know people been wanting the weather report, so I'm gonna bring it back for them real quick.
People been out here not knowing what the weather is, like confused all week long. Like, what's going on out here?
Got hoodies on in the summertime.
We had you, then we would have knew that storm was coming.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Right? Exactly. Let's get to it then.
Can't take a week off, man. Remix.
Yo. It's the weather report, whether you know it or not. It's the weather report. What up, everybody? We're back right here on the Remix Morning Show, Black Power Media. Make sure y'all like, make sure y'all subscribe, make sure y'all tune in, tell a friend. It's on again every Tuesday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. So, yo, I know it's been a minute. Y'all been wondering how's the weather. I'm going to tell you. Let's start off in Philly. Right now, we got a high today in Philly of 82 degrees. Big up to Broad Street. Big up to Meek Mills. Big up to all my peoples out in Philly doing their thing. Next, let's take it over to New Orleans, Louisiana. I know they all had a massive rain and flood, and even up in Philly and Jersey and New York, all that. Yo, big up to all y'all out there. Y'all surviving. Y'all making it happen. I seen rats fly, swimming in water. It was crazy. But anyway, New Orleans, they got a high 86. And make sure we all pull together and do what we can to help those that, that just went through it. Next, let's take it over to Nassau, Bahamas. Nassau, Bahamas, they got a high today at 88 degrees. And then we're going to take it over to Africa. Let's go to Chad. Chad got a high today at 86 degrees. And then we're going to take it to Java, Indonesia. That's right, Java, Indonesia, where they have a high today of 95 degrees. Now that's hot. That's very hot, but not as hot as a lot of the sports fans that seen my man Max Kellerman leave, and then they brought on Michael Irvin. So we got Stephen A. and Michael Irvin buffoonery now on First Take. I just wanted to put that out there. It's a lot of fans that's not happy about it. I actually would have gave Max Kellerman an invite to the barbecue. That's all I got to say. Well, let's get back to the Remix Morning Show, and that's your weather for the day. All right. Yeah.
Appreciate that.
I like Max Kellerman too. I agree with that.
Yeah, he was a good. He actually stuck to the script when Stephen A. would go over here and be like, "No, but you're black," and don't forget that. So he would actually bring him back to center, like, "Yo, man, come on, stop disrespecting."
There was a time actually where I watched that pairing and that show regularly, and it almost turned into a source of immediate critique for me, watching the two of them with Molly Karam playing the host. And she was supposed to be the Columbia a graduate student from journalism who was supposed to, but she was reduced to eye candy, even as she would try to protest and promote her own feminist views at certain times. It was like, but you're so obviously only here for your look, which they would often talk about, oddly enough, as well. But the one thing I would notice was that Max was always to the left politically of Stephen A. Smith. And always, to the point of your conversation later, Kamal, always had a more appropriate look at class and labor than Stephen A. Smith's, which I always thought was interesting, given what the dynamic was supposed to be there with race, class, and gender on that show, and also within that context, of course. But anyway, I mean,
it's hard not to be left to Stephen A. Smith at this stage.
Correct.
I'm not sure if he ever had any real politics, but I think what he's done over the last few years has just been crazy. So.
I had a run-in with him once at the National Association of Black Journalists years ago, Stephen A. Smith.
Did y'all throw hands or what?
No, one.
I thought he was
supposed to be like I forget exactly how tall. Like, I think he's my height. I think he's taller than people realize. Mm-hmm. But the whole thing was around at the time Bill Cosby's public anti-black and poor stances. This is before the allegations of Bill Cosby. And I said to Steve, and I was like, why are you defending him? And he went into this whole thing about why he thought Bill Cosby was right and black youth were being ignorant and all this other kind of stuff. And I was like, and now all the stuff that has come out since then, this is some years ago, I was like, now it all makes sense. I was like, okay, yeah. That's your lane.
I'll get you out to the news. Peace.
Anyway, thank you, Ear Doctor. Appreciate you. And speaking of which, let's spin that globe and get to the news.
Yes. Nothing like the news.
I didn't see a globe on that joint. Did we lose the globe, or did I push the wrong? Sister May's not here to run the show this morning. Folks haven't figured that out already, so I might have pushed the wrong joint. But I'm like,
I saw something.
The globe.
I saw it before the screen. That was all that mattered.
So
it said news segment.
There was a transition. We had that.
news.
But I don't. Anyway, you know, say we did.
I was like, I didn't know we had that.
Anyway, look here. I mean, look. Anyway, that's why May can't. Kalonji can't be at every meeting, and May can't not be at the show. That's what happens. You know what I'm saying?
Man, I don't know if that sounds. That's a fair.
That's not fair.
I can't be at every meeting. Okay, well, that's cool.
I'm just saying, like, well, I'm just trying to, the lie. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, shout out to Stephen A. Smith for not backing down with the Jared. He's like, I'm tall too. Anyway,
he was like, nah. Bill's right. I was like,
you should have jack slapped him. That would have been a better story and whatnot, man. You know what I'm saying?
But what I still think the funniest part for me about that moment was that Amy Goodman was there from Democracy Now! As well. And really, because what it was I think this was the first time the National Association of Black Journalists, I think they were called the Hispanic Association of I forgot what they were called, the Latino version, and the Asians were all coming to form this unity group that I think has since fallen apart.
Why was Amy Goodman there?
So Amy was there because Jesse Jackson was going to be giving a keynote at this thing, and Amy, I think, was there. I'm not entirely sure why, right. but she was there.
She was invited to the barbecue.
I don't know. I mean, she's a journalist. She was a little more grassroots at this time. This is still a couple years ago.
But not black, brown, or Asian.
Right.
No, and you know what? I don't know why, but she was there with Juan Gonzalez.
Explain yourself, Jared. Explain.
No, I'm saying I don't have to explain myself. I didn't bring her. I'm saying I ran into her at the joint. And what's funny about it was I was going to interview her, and then I saw Steven walk by, and I was like,
wow.
Hold up, I never see him. I'll definitely see her again. That's what my logic was at the time. So I
Amy
said,
Goodman is 1,000 years old. You told me you definitely.
I said, Amy, can you hold on a second? I said to her, I said, Amy, can you hold on a second? Let me just run and do this real quick, and I'll come back. And she had this look, and I'll never forget the look was of some sort of shock, and like, I at least took it as, how dare you?
Exactly. He's like, I'm Amy Goodman.
No, I don't even think it was that. I never
caught up with her again.
Yeah, I don't even think it was.
White person here. How can you not want to speak to me?
Hey, but keep it real though. I mean, if you're gonna have somebody on the show, or if you want to talk politics, would you rather have Stephen A. Smith or Amy Goodman representing your political joint?
No, you're right.
You know what I'm saying?
Again,
it's a tough one, but.
Look, I was doing interviews for my mixtape show. So I wasn't even, literally, this was going to go on a CD that was going to be freely distributed. So I'm thinking like, I don't really, I was just so shocked to see Stephen A. Smith, to be honest with you. Even though he was, of course, a regular at these events, but I at the time didn't, anyway, I was not a regular at these events. These are professional journalism events where ultimately all these people of so-called color want jobs in white corporate America. That's really that's how I took those events. No disrespect, but anyway, but so I was just like, anyway, so I did the interview with Stephen A. Smith. We have this Bill Cosby thing. I go back to try to find Amy. She's like, nah, or too busy or whatever. And I was like, all right, whatever, whatever. So that was that. And
she's like, there's other Negroes who will speak to me. I don't need you.
Exactly. She's like, I'm here. She was like, right. I'm here to get Jesse's interview anyway. She was there to get Jesse Jackson. So,
it sounded like you sound like you was you was talking earlier about seeing those shadows. You have to, if you got Stephen A. Smith, Jesse Jackson, and Amy Goodman in the room with Dr. Jared Ball, that sounds like you going in the wrong direction right now. I'm just trying to figure out.
You're right. Where the hell it was one of the, and you know who else was there? Speaking of white people, I remember it was the last time I saw the white assistant dean from my PhD program at the University of Maryland. Who acted like that, who worked with his boss to take away my funding without telling me in the middle of the program, because I was deemed as the socialist radical.
You saw him afterwards or before that?
I saw him after the program had ended. I had already graduated, and then we were at this journalism event, and I saw him walk by, and it was one of those moments where he kind of we looked at each other. And it was one of those moments of like, is this going to happen or not? Because I was like, son, is this going?
I think Jared has those moments a lot. Like,
yeah, I think Jared has them more than some of us.
Hey,
I've had,
even me.
I'm remembering. You maybe remember this time. I used to work when I was in Jackson. Jackson playing all that kind of stuff, and I worked briefly for the NAACP in Jackson. Derek Johnson. Who was the head of the Mississippi NAACP, And I was the civic engagement director or whatever. Anyway, he's a bastard. Let me just get that straight out.
You're naming names this morning.
Yeah, I mean, this dude is just trash, whatever, and I say that publicly. And so we got into it. I finished my obligation, but every time we saw each other at some other passing event or someplace else, there was always that look of like, it's about to pop off. What's going on? What's going on? That fake, that fake this, that fake.
Yeah.
Ain't no loving that at all.
Because sometimes you see somebody and before you can register who you start to greet them. Yeah. And then you start catching yourself mid-nod.
Right in the middle of it.
Hold up, son.
Motherfucker right here.
That slow-mo. You start off with the smile. Right. Oh, it's like, then you're like, is that motherfucker?
No. I want to take the smile back. I want to recapture my greeting.
Like, damn.
Yeah, that's when you really get mad. Like, man, fuck you smiled at me for. You know what I'm saying? That's how you gotta roll up on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, anyway.
But anyway, we need to get to the news, man. Y'all giving me the blues.
Yeah, speaking of which, look, that was the news. That was all the news segment right there. That was
now back to you, Chuck.
You know what I'm saying? We had beef with these folks. That was it. But look, I just got this one sent to me, admittedly. So I haven't. So forgive me for just throwing this up at all of us. But I thought this story looked pretty interesting, and just wanted to quickly grab this one for starters. I just lost. Okay, there it is. A police officer exposed a video showing a death in custody. Now he's facing prison time. And after a quick read of this story, what I'm getting is that this officer here, Javier Esqueda, a former Marine Reserve and 27-year veteran of the Joliet Police Department in Illinois, that is, of course. There was a video of this man, Eric Lurie, dying of a drug overdose, having it start while in custody in the police car. So it's not apparently that the cops were killing him, which is obviously often the case, but that he did die in police custody. And then after George Floyd's killing by a police officer occurred, this officer then apparently logged into the department system to watch the video of Lurie's arrest. That is the brother that died of a drug overdose. He was stunned not only by what he saw, but also by how little impact the death in custody seemed to have. It wasn't in the news. An outside investigation had stalled. The officers were still working as if nothing had happened. Even Lurie's own family hadn't seen the video. So apparently he downloads it or shares the video. And it's found out, and now apparently the police want to turn on him and lock him up for it. So for sharing the video. So admittedly, I haven't had a chance to really look too much into the details, but did just get this sent to me literally a few minutes ago, and thought it seemed interesting enough just to at least alert folks to the fact that it happened. And it does seem consistent with what the police would do. Even when it's not necessarily their fault per se, they wouldn't want the video. They wouldn't want to set a precedent of video of people dying in their custody for whatever reason being leaked or sent out to family or whoever. So
to add on to that story, I just saw one of the lines. It said something about the police officer that arrested the dude, Lurie, knew that he had swallowed some type of drugs and didn't get him medical attention. So if that's the case, then that would be them letting him die. So you know what I'm saying? Right. So he still, it still was, he still was, co-signing his death. I mean, it's like you knew he, was trying to kill himself or swallowed some type of drugs or whatever, and you didn't do anything. That's neglect as well.
Yeah, and it goes right? The whole state fallback is that they never prosecute the crime, but if you show the crime, if you expose the crime, then they go after you because, like you said, they don't want those documents, videotapes. We got so much precedent from what happened in terms of the Afghan and Iraqi invasions, from the release of all the documents with Snowden and Assange. So it's not the people who commit the actual crimes who get punished, but if you expose them, if you whistleblow, then they're going all the way after you to try to stop anybody from exposing the information again. Even if the information is true or the information exposes something that shouldn't be hidden anyway, or something that's supposed to be their responsibility to lay out. So it's a backward system.
Yeah, well, no, I don't think it's backward. It's just that system. You know what I'm saying? It's just like the bullshit is what it's designed to do. You know what I mean? So yeah, for us it's backwards, but for them it's full speed ahead. You know, but yeah, shout out to the family of the victim and whatnot, man. You know, hopefully they get some form of justice. As far as the police officer, that's a hazard that goes with your particular job. So, you know, good that you tried to expose it, but you know.
Anyway, Kalonji, you got something on phones and IDs, and what's going on with this here?
Phone and IDs. Okay, so now Apple and several different states, including our beautiful state of the very racist state of Georgia, at this particular moment, they're talking about doing this whole digital driver's license situation. Okay, now from what I've read and what I've understood of it, some type of new biometric ID system, right? So what they're looking to do is make it convenient for you, especially during, you know, the COVID crisis and all of these other things that's going on, for you to show your driver's license or have your driver's license uploaded digitally, you know, where you can have, you know, some type of facial recognition situation, the whole nine, where you can go to your phone and say, okay, boom, this is who I am, and they are able to read it or whatever the situation is. The main problem I have with this, aside from the fact that you're putting up more of your personal information online, you know what I'm saying, and there's always some type of new hacking system that can take your shit and, you know, flip you all around. The main problem I have is the fact that for us, Black folks in America in particular, it always looks like we have a gun. If we're naked, we have a gun. If we have a shoe, we're tying our shoe, it looks like a gun. If we have a phone, how many cases have we seen? How many times have we seen someone being murdered because of the fact that they thought that their phone was a gun? So to me, it seems like a lose-lose setup, you know, for you, because of the fact that me personally, I'm not looking to reach in my pocket or reach for anything to give these characters a reason to shoot. I mean, was that Amadou Diallo that was shot over his wallet? You know what I'm saying? He's pulling his wallet out, trying to give his ID.
Yeah,
so I was going to say, it doesn't require the change. I mean, like even without this, it's. I mean, he was reaching for the analog wallet version of a license.
Of this digital wallet version, right?
So you even if you thought theoretically that pulling out a phone, which has a light and lights up, would clearly not be a gun or even be confused as a wallet, might even help you. But I think I think you're right that either way, it's an unsafe thing. And I think to your previous point about the digital part, I mean, because initially I'm one who's thinking, you know, I want to be like a lot of people are encouraged to think how easy and much this makes it easier. And if I have all this stuff on my phone anyway, and I'm paying through credit cards and stuff on my phone anyway, and everybody has my face on Instagram and Facebook anyway, that this would just make it easier if I could just didn't have to have another separate piece for a license. But it's spooky, man, to see. And then you see these videos, you know, the Tom Cruise joint and the other one of these fake videos that people are making where people are talking and fully acting out and moving around, and it's like, man, this is just one more little bit that they would have to do all of that with. And it is, as the thing says here, creepy.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like, you know, and they always have these little test runs, and right now, you know, lucky us here in the, like I said, the very racist state of Georgia, you know, this is one of those places. I mean, you know, and to your point, you know, it doesn't have to be a phone, don't have to be a wallet or whatever. There was a brother, I can't even believe I can't think of his name right now, a few years ago, 27-year-old who was gunned down here. He's a former veteran. Well, he was a veteran, and he actually was naked. He's going through an episode. I mean, fully naked, butt naked, just broad daylight. And the cop shot him a couple times and murdered him because he's walking towards the cop. So this is a young man who clearly didn't have a weapon. You understand what I'm saying? Because you can see all of his body parts. But now they're talking about, here, take your iPhone or whatever, and, you know, show us your ID with your iPhone. I mean, to me, what's the real difference? it's digital. It's in one place. I mean, I'm really confused about the situation. Of course, knowing, the founders of Apple, I certainly don't trust, my identification even anymore than being with them.
I used to be one of those people who didn't think
about
the chip
Apple.
thing. I didn't think the chip thing. Then people who talk about the chip in your hand or the chip in your wrist or whatever. I was one of those people who laughed at that as like that's just some science fiction fantasy. Yeah. But I think that's more and more coming true because people are just going to be like, oh, I might as well just do this with my hand or something like that. And I had this incredible video like a couple of weeks ago. I'm just on the technology part of this stuff is like these robots that were doing somersaults and flips and walking. And it almost looked like something that could be out of some new science fiction robot war. So this technology is advancing so super fast. And we are just not prepared for all the possibilities, even this sort of driverless cars and trucks and all that kind of stuff, which again is another way to displace labor in a lot of ways. But all this stuff is happening so fast, it's scary.
Yeah. I mean,
that AI stuff is
control.
Real. Absolutely, yeah. It's a problem.
The new easy pass.
I mean, and it is easy, and it makes it easier for us to be exploited and surveilled and everything else too. So I mean, it's well, some of what will be used to build all of that technology that is replacing labor is going to still, unfortunately, be coming out of soil and land and on the continent of Africa. And as is happening now, again, I don't pretend to know a lot of the details here, but there's again another military coup in Guinea. But as I'm seeing here and from the good folks at CNBC, I think this speaks a lot more to the realities of why these things keep happening on the continent, as opposed to narratives about corrupt leadership, etc. African inability to self-govern, so on and so on. It's that these lands continue to be the sources of all the iron ore, bauxite, etc. So this becomes the concern as it's reported. A coup being carried out by Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya is threatening or could threaten what is reported here as the world's main source of aluminum, or as I like the British say, aluminium. Prices spiked in those prices spiked to a 10-year high on the London Metals Exchange. Again, I don't pretend to know the details of what's happening in Guinea. I just think it's interesting to note that yet once again, it's intimately related to international finance capital, global markets, and European interests. So if I could just quickly, shamelessly self-promote and plug again the conversation we had yesterday with Diedrich Muhammad, and even the discussion I had of Nkrumah's Revolutionary Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare and the Myth of Black Buying Power. This is exactly what we were talking about, and it seems to be, occurring again with the same level of consistency. So, anyway,
and I'm glad you mentioned Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare. I think that that's another book that everyone should reread. Every now and then you should read it and reread it again. There was a point when you couldn't get your hands on it, and shout out to my man Born Nkrumah. At one point, they were selling the Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare online for like some astronomical price, like $180 or some craziness like that. So we actually had folks who were working at Kinko's and all that type stuff back in the day, Staples, and we would just run them off and give them out. You know what I'm saying? Give them out in the hood for free because we thought the information was more important than some capitalist pig, getting all these resources off of these materials that's necessary. But Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare is definitely a book that I recommend because folks are always asking about books to read, and Nkrumah is definitely underrated. So definitely, rewind and step up on
and to the point, I mean, he's clearly still relevant in his, I mean, his analysis speaks exactly what seems to be going on there again. I mean, this is and I mean, in that, you know, we talked about it, but he was prefiguring even discussions of AFRICOM.
Right.
By the U.S. control of deployment of U.S. Of military, U.S. military or satellites or influence throughout the continent. And this is exactly why, because they need that bauxite, they need that aluminum, they need whatever they're going to need to replace labor elsewhere and oppress others elsewhere. You know what I mean? So that, you know, those resources have to keep coming out. And as the story said, like the London markets are worried, you know, the metal markets are worried. And so I'm sure they're going to be looking at this new kernel to suppress everything, get everything back in order and get that business running up and running again. So I don't know.
Once again, Africa breastfeeds the world and has its back turned on and is disrespected by its bastard children, you know, so you know, free Africa, you know, let's continue to, you know.
And perfectly right on time. Again, as Malcolm used to say, the police do locally what the military does internationally, and it is an international problem. And then right here down the street from me, this new story comes out about U.S. military bases and airfields contaminating the Potomac River, which is the river that runs right down the street from me here in Maryland. You know, through, you know, DC is being polluted by the U.S. military and the bases in and around the airfields and the Air Force bases, et cetera, that are all around there. And what's interesting, shout out to the DC statehood and Green Party, who are leading the call against, you know, and raising up the fuss of what's going on here. And simply saying that the left-wing party, that is this DC statehood Green Party, cited a study by the Sierra Club and the Ecology Center that found astronomical levels of toxic PFAS produced by DC Water's Blue Plains Advanced Wastewater Treatment Plant in Bloom Soil Conditioner. And long story short, they just show that a lot of it's coming from wastewater, coming from the military. It's going into the Potomac River. People fish in that river, eat the fish out of that river. And obviously are, you know, it's going to be expected they're going to suffer the consequences of that. And they're finding it even is seeping into the drinking water for DC residents. All of these, you know, so never mind what the military does in terms of polluting the world with bombs and missiles and bullets. It's polluting even its own community, the nation's capital, that isn't even Chocolate City anymore. Yeah. So now you really got to be concerned. It's like it's white folks are reclaiming that city, and now they're even being polluted by the military. I mean, it's crazy what's going on.
And it'll take 60 to 100 years to even begin to talk about it as a real problem, right? Because first there's going to be a lot of conversations about how it's not true. They're going to wait for people to get sick. The cost is going to be astronomical to even begin to think about what a fix will be. And all of this while people are dying, but they're still allowed to produce their military hardware, to do all the things that they want to do, produce the weapons that allow them to go support right-wing coup leaders in other places. So, I mean, it's all part, like everybody else is expendable. As long as that capital flows, as long as those minerals flow, all the rest of us are expendable, including those new white folks who are basically the management class for a lot of this stuff. Even they can be replaced when it comes down to it. So they don't really give a damn about it.
Hey man, they still didn't get shit together in Flint yet, man. You know what I'm saying? So
no, they haven't. In fact, the exact opposite.
Yeah, you're talking about Afghanistan and you know, Flint's right here. You know, you talking about the fish, you know, the fish can't live, the vegetables, the fruit. I mean, you can't even, I mean, the soil itself is fucked up. You know, this is like, I don't think that people get it twisted and they just look at it from, oh, they're against the police, they're against the military. These motherfuckers are against the planet. It's not just black folks. These motherfuckers are against the entire planet. When you poison the very water that you need to live, I mean, there is no morals, you know.
Hey, one more from me, at least this morning, that's somewhat related, also from Covert Action Magazine, is that it's a fascinating story for those who want to take the time to read it. New evidence implicates CIA, Los Angeles Police Department, FBI, and Mafia as plotters in an elaborate hit plan to prevent Robert F. Kennedy from ever reaching the White House. Long story short, I did read this piece. It is fascinating, and the details are very circuitous and nuanced and sophisticated. But the long story short is that Sirhan, the Palestinian-born Jordanian resident who was accused of being the sole assassin of RFK in 1968, is said not to be possible to have been the assailant. In fact, they point to a number of folks who were in assassins, and they suggest that they name names. They suggest connections to even people like Howard Hughes, the famous billionaire who had connections to the Republican Party and the CIA. All kinds of other connections to the people that are accused of pulling the trigger, and they show with some forensic evidence and scientific evidence that Kennedy could not have been killed by Sirhan, and it's just fascinating. And on the point that, as this article argues, is that Kennedy had become increasingly radical, increasingly more concerned about the poor, anti-war positions, etc., and put him in position to be targeted by the military-industrial complex and its allies in the state agency apparatuses, etc. So it's a fascinating story that if anybody at all cares, and even if you're not a fan or particularly interested in RFK, I think the parallels and the lines that reach into struggles and interests more maybe immediate to those of us here are pretty evident. I mean, it's pretty clear the kind of array of forces that are prepared to defend the status quo and the continued extraction of wealth from
Kennedy. I mean, Robert Kennedy is an interesting topic area or whatever. I did not read the piece. Sirhan was caught at the scene, so I'm interested in what their evidence is to suggest that he wasn't the actual killer. And Kennedy was, as folks, history shows, moving, let's say, leftward. But that's, Kennedy was also one of the prime architects of the expansion of the Vietnam War, particularly during his brother's time in office. Obviously, he was connected to COINTELPRO and running it, and was famous for being more conservative as sort of the leader of the Justice Department in terms of civil rights and so forth and so on. But he did later on, by sort of the later 60s, particularly, I guess, somewhat after his brother was assassinated, started to reevaluate and became close with Marion Wright Edelman and several other people in terms of taking tours. So how left he turned, I'm not, that's all within sort of establishment politics.
Right. Exactly.
So I'd be interested in reading the article, particularly around some of the conclusions, because a little bit of me is like, was Kennedy that left? But okay.
Well, again, it's not left from our perspective. It's left from theirs. And that doesn't take much. And as soon as you start talking about poor people and maybe we should not be in so many wars, I think that's all.
Grassy knolled. Right. Get your ass Ron Brown. But I mean, it's crazy that Sirhan's actually been granted parole and shit after 50
That's right. That's what the story started with. My bad.
That's the ill shit right there, that he's just been granted parole. And when you talk about Sirhan being captured at the scene, the crazy thing I always found about that particular story as well was the fact that former football player and actor Rosie Greer and decathlete Rayford Johnson, who actually just transitioned last December, they were his bodyguards. So they end up tackling Sirhan. Them and some white reporter, I forgot the dude's name. The white reporter really didn't do shit. He just, your niggas got him. Let me stand over and act like I'm that dude. But I just found it interesting that like this dude actually has parole, but we have so many political prisoners. We're fighting for Sundiata and Mumia, Jamil Al-Amin, and so many other people. But yet this dude assassinated, allegedly, one of the most iconic quote unquote American figures, especially political figures in the history of this particular country. And he's up for parole. I mean, that shit is like ill. And he's still in his 60s. He's not even 70 years old yet. So, you know, I just found that really interesting. Sirhan was from Palestine, correct?
Yeah, from Palestine, raised in Jordan, and as the article talks about, I mean, they say that he was politicized. The argument, the narrative is that he was politicized because Robert Kennedy was continuing to support Israel, to your point about being left, and this was upsetting to Sirhan, obviously, who had suffered, PTSD from the Palestinian conflict with Israel. Apparently had lost, I think there was some direct connection with his family or in the struggle there, or something like that. But that was their argument, that because Kennedy did something pro-Israel, he was set in motion. But as the article does break down, I mean, it's very similar, as I read it at least, to the way Merrill McCullough, the undercover agent, eventual CIA agent, falsely points in the wrong direction after King is assassinated. He's the one that misdirects everybody by pointing towards where James O'Reilly was said to have been, and was, I think, later proven could not have been. And the same thing here with Sirhan is that while he is being said, like they're pointing at him saying he did it, they're showing how where the bullets entered Kennedy's body could not have come from not only where his height was, but his arm angle, where he was standing. The bullets came from right behind the ear, at least in one instance. And apparently there were multiple shooters, and and they found other bullets, bullet holes in parts of the that had missed, that show that Sirhan couldn't have been the only shooter there. So I mean, they have a lot there. Even Kennedy's son, believes that Sirhan is not the killer. So I mean, there's anyway. My point is, it's an interesting story, and I think more for our stuff is that it shows that there is this alignment and a deep concern among the deep state for containing what might be considered radical politics. So
never trust a dude with two of the same names, Sirhan. If you didn't hear me the first time, I'm gonna repeat it, Sirhan. That's a gangster ass name though.
But speaking of gangster, I hear that we have more viewers on Twitch and elsewhere this morning. So we just want to shout them out, welcome them to the crew, and encourage them, along with everybody else, to sign up, support us on Patreon, and become a member. We want to encourage that as well. And you can do all of that through blackpowermedia.org. So shout out to them and welcome, and appreciate all of that. So
welcome to the remix.
Welcome to the remix. And it remix, looks like, speaking of remix, let's remix again with the
I can't. Anyway, welcome out all my remixers out there. It's time to give y'all some entertainment news. Yo, Atlanta was lit this weekend. We had the House in the Park. We had the Rock Steady, which is like an Afrobeat world music function. It was just real dope. Mad people was out. The city was lit. I had a great time. 4 DJs that played house music from 12 noon to 8 p.m. all day. It was crazy. But anyway, I'm gonna get to the entertainment news just to let y'all know. So let's do it like that.
All day long.
But
house music all day long on a remix. Welcome out, y'all. This is the Remix Morning Show. As we get into a little bit of entertainment news, in case y'all didn't know, or y'all just getting on the show, we did give salute out to no other than the brother Michael K. Williams, who just passed. One of my favorite shows that just came out, Lovecraft Country. Man, the HBO canceled, but I think it's going over to Apple TV. Big up to that brother, Rise in Power. Brooklyn, where you at? That's what it is. So big up to him. Also, what happened in entertainment news? We got something going on with these 3 brothers right here. You got Drake, who just came out with his album, Certified Lover Boy. You got Kanye West that just came out with his album, Donda. And you got Andre 3000. They ain't got nothing to do with this, but at the same time, he does. What happened is you got Drake and Kanye going at each other for their album drop. So what happens? Your boy Drake leaks a song that Kanye and Andre 3000 did
for the Donda project that didn't make it when they're talking about their mothers passing and stuff like that. Dope track, shows you why Andre 3000 is still that dude. So yo, they playing sneaky right now. It's some real hip hop battling going on and a whole nother level on that aspect. So that's that. Let's take it over to some more news. Taking it back to some New York rappers. The next verses that they got going down September 14th is going to be Ja Rule versus Fat Joe. I don't know if I really like it. It's going to be a bunch of singing and rapping, but that's what it is. When they put on Lean Back, oh yeah, Ja Rule better lean back. That's all I got to say. And other than that, congratulations to Cardi B and Offset, who just had another baby, a baby boy. So congratulations to y'all. I'm glad y'all got back together so y'all can make this family thing happen. Like I said, the most revolutionary thing is the Black family. So that is your entertainment news for the day. Right now, we're going to get back to the Remix Morning Show and do it like this, y'all.
Is that the worst verses ever?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
Yo.
So everybody was thinking the same thing at the same time. It was like,
no, the worst verse was Nelly versus Ludacris. I don't know. I just wasn't feeling that.
This to me is worse than that.
yeah, this is worse.
I actually like a couple Ludacris tracks.
I think what's worse about it is that I didn't know about the Nelly Ludacris thing, but just hearing about this.
You just mentioned
What could I be without you?
But I think the worst thing of the Fat Joe joint is his beard and the shape up. What is going on with his face?
That's all pencil.
Dude,
I feel like that's like, it was like drawing.
What is going on?
That's that Jing Zing. That's that Beijing.
Listen, man. And this dude from the Bronx, man, he giving the Bronx a bad day, dude. That beard. It's like me showing up.
Light-skinned dudes a bad name. He's doing us all dirty right now.
Yeah, that's like me showing up with some black spray paint tomorrow. All across my shit.
Yo,
ain't nobody supposed to say nothing.
Yo, on another note, 21 songs by Drake, 27 songs by Kanye on the album. That's completely too long. It's like too much.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Real quick, before you leave, though, I did attempt twice now to listen to Kanye's Donda album, and I honestly find it unlistenable. I cannot listen to it. Like, it's unlistenable. I wanted your opinion
on it first.
Politics, music. And I used to like him as a producer. I'm not feeling any of this, from the sound to the preaching. I'm like,
I didn't make it through. I got a life. I mean, 27 songs. I mean, I can't sit there for that long and listen to that. And yeah, I got to like 5 and was like, I'm good. And then Drake.
Where are you on the Drake? Yeah.
Drake is all right. It's just the same mellow tone throughout the whole album. He knows his crowd, so he knows he's certified lover boy. You know, that's what he does.
I mean, the fact I can't even
Black Jews, boy. That's a shout out to Drake. Black Jews, baby.
Yeah, it's a holiday today, right? Yeah, I can't even.
Yeah, holiday. That's right. Shout out to the Jews.
Man, I can't even really take this dude serious if you're gonna call yourself certified lover boy. I'm not about to listen to nobody whose goddamn title is certified lover boy.
Stop hating.
I am.
Even his album cover is a bunch of pregnant women. I mean, emojis of pregnant women. He's like, he knows his lane.
Every color.
Yeah. I just saw somebody pregnant the other day that you sent me here, doctor, but I'm not gonna mention that. But anyway, welcome to the Remix.
X, boy, Lil Nas X. He's selling records. You can't be mad at that.
Talk about that, man.
You can't be mad at that.
I'm out of here.
Whatever.
He's selling records.
Yeah, man. It's all good.
I've never heard, other than that Old Town Road, I haven't heard 2 seconds of his work, and I still seemingly know everything that this man is doing. So he's doing something right.
Yo, I mean,
he's got a whole publicity machine that's moving 24/7 for him.
The marketing game is crazy, man. It's like, yo, skills don't matter. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's
not at all.
Whatever.
That stuff is a wrap. But thankfully, Kamal has brought a very skillful guest to the Remix. So let's go ahead and get to that, and we can raise it up another notch here at the Remix.
Bam.
No doubt.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. How are you doing, Ashley?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Look, as can be expected, you know.
Yeah. I want to introduce you real quick, then ask you, because I noticed from the bio that you're in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. But first, let me tell our guests we have Ashley K. Shelton here, who is the executive director of the Power Coalition, statewide 501c3 table in Louisiana. And the Power Coalition uses a broad-based strategy that combines community organizing, issue advocacy, and civic action, all while increasing the capacity of community organizations throughout the state to sustain and hold the work. She's a labor organizer. And, the day after Labor Day, which I continually point out to people, even though we celebrate it, but, it was obviously the replacement for a more radical May Day International Workers theme. But still, it's an opportunity to talk about worker struggles, worker issues, and we're so glad to have you on. I appreciate you coming on the morning show.
Well, no, I'm happy to be here. And, there's just so much going on. And I think that, oftentimes, Louisiana and the Deep South, folks don't want to think about what these conversations mean in a Deep South context. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that if we aren't talking about it in the South, then it, like I tell folks, I said, it was all a game when, right to work and all these things were being seeded in the South. And then, it was less than a year and it was in Michigan and all these other states that thought it could never happen to them. And so we have to pay attention to the South, because as goes the South goes the rest of the country. So yeah, just happy to be here. Happy to be talking about labor in the South, and in particular in the aftermath of disasters. Feels very.
So let's start with just, obviously we just had a huge hurricane that happened that hit Louisiana, went up north. Just, in general, how is your doing? How is your area doing after that aftermath?
So, Baton Rouge has had a good bit of the power restored here, and we didn't take a direct hit. So lots of wind, but not a direct hit. I've been touring. I went up to and through New Orleans, Metairie in New Orleans. I mean, total devastation. I mean, like Metairie. I mean, on the way to New Orleans, you pass the river parishes. Complete trees uprooted, from the root system. The river parishes were decimated. Houma, Louisiana, also, decimated by the storm. And then you get to Metairie, in Kenner in New Orleans. And again, the whole power grid is down. I think they've got about a third of the grid back up. But you do have, places throughout Orleans and Jefferson that are just still struggling. And, and it's 100 degrees here, 100% humidity, and folks are without power. And, it's problematic in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wanted to start with, there was an interesting part in the bio that was sent, where you were speaking about the fact that on Labor Day, millions of people lost their unemployment benefits. And the fact that happened on Labor Day, really sort of juxtaposed against the idea that somehow this country cares about workers. Talk to us a little bit about what you feel is the current condition of workers, particularly in the South, vis-a-vis trying to win rights and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got a lot of work to do. I mean, I think we know that, more than half of the African-American population in this country is moving to the South, now living in the South. And, and what we know is that in Louisiana in particular, Black women make 48 cents on the dollar for every dollar a white man makes, which is the lowest in the country, because typically it's around 67 cents. We know that, they have not allowed us to unionize. They've not allowed us to be able to put strategies in place. We can't raise the minimum wage. And what's interesting is that oil and gas has been the major voice preempting all of this. And we just haven't had the opportunity to break through their lobby. Like, their lobby is so powerful and expansive and wealthy. And so even though 82% plus of the state people of Louisiana believe we should raise the minimum wage, and then you have almost 60% that believe we should raise it to $15, you cannot do it. And then even when you have municipalities like New Orleans, who they've already voted many years ago to raise their minimum wage, you still can't do it because they're preempted by the state. And so when you think about that, I think we're just at an evolution point right now with, unemployment benefits are gone. You've got a pandemic that has certainly impacted lives. And then too, let's also note that even though it officially ended by the federal government on Labor Day, it certainly ended in a lot of Southern states much earlier. And so, which makes no sense especially in the Deep South, where a lot of our states are poor states. And so, there's this idea of, as a taxpayer, even when the federal government does the right thing, right? Like, we aren't even getting the full benefit of all of the things that we need. I mean, thankfully, because of this, like, the silver lining of the disaster is that they have indeed put disaster, unemployment on the table, and as allowing, folks to access that. But, we've got some problems. And my thing is that if there's this great, kind of coming home to the South, we want to make sure that folks are coming back to good jobs, and that folks are coming back to, real opportunities, and not the same old South where folks are only allowed to work in the hospitality industry, low wage jobs. And like I said, I think we're at an evolution point where folks are just like, I don't want to work your slave wage job. And they're fighting back, and they're trying to figure out a better way. And I think we saw this after Katrina. And what I reminded folks is that, they were paying folks $15 an hour after Katrina as well. And then as soon as the crisis was over, folks went right back to their typical practices. And so I think that folks have got to continue to fight, stand up for a better wage.
And, statistics show, obviously, that when there's a unionized shop, unionized business industries, workers make more. Workers have better benefits, better opportunity to create wealth for themselves because of those benefits. So that all happens under unionized shops, unionized industries. And that's one reason why, the history, particularly of the South, but obviously this is not just exclusive of the South, they make it so hard for folks to unionize. And, it's these tremendous hurdles that have to be overcome. And on top of those hurdles, they do so much to encourage the industry, politicians, to try to get voters to go against, try to get workers to go against voting in unions. Can you talk a little bit about that problem of even unionizing in the South and how difficult that is?
Yeah, no, like I said, it's almost unbelievable, some of the tactics and the things that have gone on. I think that, there was, every year that we've run, or have worked with the legislature to run legislation around expanding people's right to organize, we see our legislature, consistently and constantly fighting us. And we thought that, like, okay, well, maybe it's just about the teachers, right? Well, it's not just about the teachers. They also fought the firemen. They also fought the policemen. Like, they didn't want anybody to have the ability to organize. And really, their way of killing, unionization, within, these groups is to make sure that they couldn't do payroll deduction to pay dues, right? And so if they can cut off the income stream, then they can cut off the capacity of that union to be effective. And every legislative session, we're constantly fighting that battle of, like, what do people have the right to do, right? And then, interestingly enough, I think with preemption, we use some of their own tactics against them. It's like, hey, I thought you guys were small government. And so why is the state trying to tell municipalities around the industrial industrial tax exemption and trying to stop municipalities from getting their tax money to be able to do things like pay teachers and do the things that they want to, be able to do. But it is a constant battle and a constant fight here to to be able to push and move the needle around the ability for folks to unionize. But it's happening. I mean, the city workers in New Orleans have worked with the city council and fought with the city council to get $15 an hour. But you only see it in those places where, like at the municipal level, but you can't get a statewide. I mean, certainly our teachers are strong and their union continues to be strong. And so you see that it still exists, but it is definitely an ongoing fight for folks to be able to effectively unionize and to get to strength. And I will say this, one of the things that was interesting is that even though it was a small growth, but there was a 2% growth in unionization in Louisiana, which again sounds small to other folks, but these are the incremental wins that happen when you just keep doing the work. We keep pushing, we keep trying to hold folks accountable, and and folks are starting to wake up and just say, like, we're tired, we're sick and tired of being sick and tired. Like, we elected leaders to do a job, and they're making it harder for us to do our job.
Can you talk a little bit about the work of the Power Coalition on that note then? How does the Power Coalition itself help support unionization and workers advocate on for their own behalf to win more rights in Louisiana?
So yeah, the Power Coalition, we're a civic engagement table, which basically means, we're a table of base building groups. And so from every issue to worker rights, criminal justice, reproductive justice, housing, we've got, someone that anchors our table that has a base of directly impacted people that inform that, that particular issue that then informs our table. And so as we go about doing our work, we pretty much have two sides to the shop. One side is, engagement of infrequent voters of color. We know that campaigns are just not talking to Black voters, because what we know is that over the last, 6 years since we've been doing this work, specifically as the Power Coalition, that, at any given point, if I talk to, infrequent voters of color, we can turn out at least 65% of our universe. And so whether we're targeting our universe, meaning if we're targeting 500,000 folks, I can turn out 65%. If we're targeting 1 million, I can always know that number has been consistent over 6 years, which just proves to me that people weren't talking to voters of color in the first place. And also, too, campaigns don't have a ton of money to be able to get to everyone. But worse than that, too, I mean, the campaigns that do have money don't want to talk to voters of color anyway, because their interest on the line. And, and I think that the other side of our work is, doing deep listening in community. So we are all over the state of Louisiana, listening, trying to understand. The hurricane actually disrupted the storm that we the storm listening sessions that we had planned, but we had already started to have several of those conversations around the state, and then that informs our agenda, and then we legislate and advocate across the state of Louisiana to fight for the stuff that folks want, and whether that is ending racist practices, like the Black tax around fines and fees, or continuing and supporting the work of VOTE, one of our founding and anchor partners around criminal justice reform. We are here fighting that fight. And so, one of the things we're proud of this year and last year we sued the Secretary of State around not providing COVID benefits, allowing COVID to be a reason to request an absentee ballot, and took them to court in partnership with the Legal Defense Fund, and we won. And so not only did the COVID reasons for requesting a ballot stand, also we expanded early voting, which was critical, because 50% of every Black voter that voted in the general election early voted. So we know the impact of that work. And then this past legislative session, we also were 40 states, 400 pieces of legislation to quell voting rights. In Louisiana, we actually went the other way. We expanded early voting for presidential elections, and we also ended the arcane practice of, there was a 3-minute rule for folks being in the ballot booth. And I don't know if you've ever seen a ballot in Louisiana, but by the time you finish reading the legalese on all these constitutional amendments, you don't know if you're voting yes. If you vote yes, you're voting no, or if you vote no, you're voting yes. And so at the end of the day, we at least doubled the time that folks have in the ballot booth, because when each of the areas gets, totally impacted in their lines, like we saw for this last presidential election, they try to push people, to move through the process. And we said, no, you have to at least give people a reasonable amount of time to be able to vote. And so
you mentioned the black tax part of it earlier as one of the policy. Jay, can you talk a little bit about what that is? I haven't heard about that.
Oh yeah, so in Louisiana, I mean, and it's a practice, all across the South. So basically, they keep African American communities trapped in a never-ending cycle of criminalization and poverty. And so fines and fees, it just starts this domino effect. But I mean, they do still joke about it in the hallways, in our state capitol, about it being the black tax, which is people's inability to pay these fines and fees. And then they just end up, constantly, once that happens, they lose their driver's license, their warrants out. And for us, it's been like, how can we address fines and fees so that folks can, selfishly, I need you to have a valid driver's license so you can vote. More importantly, I need you to have a valid driver's license so you can pass a background check if you're trying to, access better employment. And so, understanding how all of these things are connected and how they're impacting, folks, has been really important. And we have, we are still fighting that fight, but we're inching our way closer and closer to, to a place where, where we're going to be able to move the needle on this issue of fines and fees. And so we've been doing it individually in municipalities across the state, but now we want to be able to actually have state legislation that will address this issue. And the legislation actually already exists and is on the books, but it has been delayed by the legislature for the last several years. And it's time, it's time for them to address those issues.
Now, you seem to be suggesting a little bit like this. So Louisiana is not necessarily following exactly the same pattern as the rest of the South, particularly in terms of expanding voting rights. Like obviously post Biden's win over Trump, and even though Biden, my personal opinion, and then probably many of the opinions of folks who are watching, is not that much better, to be kind. Maybe open to a little bit more pressure. But it's basically a status quo moderate president. But the reaction of the right, of course, is that anything left of being anti-Black is somehow extremely liberal for them. Overtly anti-Black is extremely liberal for them. There is a sort of a reworking, as particular, places like Georgia and some other places, of voting rights laws to even make it harder for folks to vote. But you're suggesting somehow Louisiana, that you've bucked that trend in some ways, and have been able to not have some of the other impacts that other states have had around restricting voter rights happen to you guys. Can you talk a little bit about that and that work involved?
Sure. I mean, I think, part of it goes to, we're also one of the few states in the Deep South that has a progressive governor. He's and he's also constitutionally a very powerful governor. And so, I think two things happen. One, we've been advocating and drawing attention to voting rights issues across the state. We have a really strong election protection program. We have over 200 volunteers that have been working on election protection for the last several years, trying to hold our Secretary of State accountable. And so I think that as we push for these, pieces of legislation, he didn't fight us on it, but he did also have, a couple of pieces of legislation that would have been detrimental, like purging rolls more than they already do. Also, I think there was one around canvassing neighborhoods. And so, it was really interesting to me. It's like, you don't have money in the budget for Sunday voting, but you have money to go canvass neighborhoods that I'm sure would be mostly neighborhoods of people of color to verify address. And the governor vetoed those three bills. And so, again, so it wasn't that we didn't have some regressive voting rights bills on the table. It was just that, we had, a governor that stood with us on the positive ones, and then was willing to do the harder work of vetoing the negative bills. And so they did bring them, but the governor did stand with us on that. And so I think that also is one of the things about, why the South matters, is that wherever you have an opportunity to make to make room, right, for something different in the Deep South, you've got to take advantage of it. Our governor is also one of the few governors that in the South that has also accepted and expanded, Medicaid. I mean, we're one of the few, if not only states in the South that has expanded Medicaid, which has made a huge difference while we're in the midst of, a pandemic, the likes of which we haven't seen in multiple generations. And so it does matter that, that our state does have some progressive leadership that's allowed us to be able to, do a couple of things that we wouldn't have normally been able to do if we didn't have that kind of leadership at the top.
And as you wrap up, I wanted to get your general feeling of, where we're going with sort of workers' rights in this country, right? So obviously we, from my perspective, what I see, there's always a pushback to workers having expanded rights, as we've obviously seen a time period over the last 40 to 50 years where worker rights in a lot of ways have been gutted. Pensions have gone away. Healthcare benefits have been diminished. The whole idea of even paying benefits for large corporations as they've sort of recategorized workers as independent contractors has really done something to the relationship of what is the responsibility of a job vis-a-vis in terms of the system to a worker who gives and dedicates their time. So it seems to be a time where workers are really being punished. Not that there ever was a time where, there was celebratory, something to really celebrate, except for when workers fought back, right?
Right.
So what is your assessment, I guess, of these times in terms of worker rights and what we can struggle forward for?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think we're at an evolution point, right? I think that there's a moment that either we're going to kind of draw the line in the sand and hold it, right, and begin the process of pushing back and pushing forward on the kinds of reforms that we know are going to be necessary in order for there to be more worker rights that exist. Our partner, the New Orleans Worker Center for Racial Justice here in New Orleans, who've been working across the state in Homa and other places as well. It's a constant fight for there to be rights. And then two, we haven't even talked about like what worker rights mean for our immigrant communities that are, living in substandard, conditions, certainly being taken advantage of in many places in the South. And so, for me, the work just continues. It's like, how do we keep pushing forward to be able to continue to push, to expand the unionization? How are we also looking at the bench, right? Like, I feel like our leadership bench is a little bit light when we look at who's running for office and who can afford to run for office. If the only folks that can run for office are the ones that are paid for by oil and gas who've been controlling this narrative, then we got that. Well, then we'll keep having the problem we've always had. And so I think, we've got to just continue to push beyond, our traditional methods and really hold the line in this moment, because, I think that what people don't understand about the South is that, we've always been, Louisiana's always been poor, right? Like there's always been a struggle. And so at this moment in time, the struggle, is exacerbated, but it doesn't feel much different. And as the ARPA dollars flow, federal, dollars to restore our communities after these hurricanes. I mean, we've really been pushing, you've got to use this money to actually, it has to get to the ground. This idea that we want to support business and not people is ridiculous. The economy will never recover. Our communities will never recover. And so we've just continued, for me, the point is that we have to use ARPA as well as, the infrastructure funds and all of the money that's coming from the federal government to remake the opportunity of workers' rights and also employment. I mean, I think that, we know that, like, where's the climate change workforce in the Deep South? If we're going to continuously have these storms, why aren't we building that? Why are folks from all surrounding states going to come in as per usual and rebuild our state? But we have, 50% of Black men unemployed in the city of New Orleans. Like, doesn't make any sense, right? And so I think that we've got to begin to do that work of, like thinking and moving differently around where is the line of what we will take when it comes to workers' rights, and also saying that, like, actually we won't take anything less than workers' rights, and the fact that we are currently not quite where we're definitely not where we want to be when we talk about worker rights in the Deep South.
So Ashley, I want to thank you so much for coming on. You're right, we don't get to hear about what's happening in Louisiana and in the South enough. It's one of the the reasons why BPM was created, to really dig deep and to talk about struggles and work on the ground. And the Power Coalition is definitely an organization / coalition that is doing work on the ground. So thank you, Ashley Shelton from the Power Coalition, for joining us today. And we appreciate you coming on.
Yes, and check us out on our website, powercoalition.org. Lots of Hurricane Ida resources, but also doing some really great. We are dropping a new report on how our state can use, ARPA funds to change the state of Louisiana in very many of the ways we just talked about.
Cool. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Black
All right.
Media.
Take care.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
Right on.
Yeah.
Good work.
I like sometimes just to talk to folks who are on the ground, whether I have the exact politics or not, but they're on the ground doing that work day to day in the community, talking to people, working with folks, and just to hear how they're surviving and doing and what's working and what's not. So it's a really good conversation with Ashley.
Absolutely.
Hey,
that's good.
And forget what you heard. I take the 2% uptick in unionization as a good thing, given the state of labor and unionization and the downtick it's taken over the last, 20, 30, 40 years. That to me is a positive. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate you and Ashley for having a discussion just about labor, period. Never mind the specifics of the South and all of that. So that's fantastic. Anyway, so let's keep it moving here. We got a lot more coming up here at the Remix Morning Show, Black Power Media. And of course, coming up right now is our good doctor of the ears.
Yeah. Yo, what's good, y'all? Y'all ready? Good. Hey, I wanted to just go ahead and give y'all a little sample of what's coming on Sundays. Sundays right here on Black Power Media, 8 p.m. I do a mix of different types of music. So I just want to take y'all down memory lane real quick. That's cool?
True. Absolutely. The only problem with Sundays, and I think that's on us, because I think if we do more, you'll do more, is that it's an hour. We need more than an hour, my dude.
Man, listen. Y'all got to get a sample. Y'all can't get. Listen, back in the days, you get a Nick bag. You don't get a whole ounce. No, I'm just playing. But now, for real, we can't give y'all too much. We got to keep y'all coming. We give y'all, you'll be like too comfortable. So give y'all a little bit. So let's do that.
Fair enough. All right. Let's go. Remix.
Welcome out, everybody. This is the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor. And make sure y'all tune in this Sunday, 2 Sundays, so we can rock jams and take y'all back, and y'all can sing along yo, when you say you love me, it doesn't matter. It goes into my head as just chit chatter. You might think it's egotistical or very free, but what it say, take none of it seriously. And that's how we go. And that's how we go. And that's how it flow. And we're going to go flip to other songs like this. Let's do it like this. How about that right there? So what we like to do is an interactive hip hop, R&B, soul music. So you might hear something and it come in like this. Yo, I'm your idol, your highest title, numero uno. I'm not a Puerto Rican, but I'm speaking so that you know and understand I got the gift to speak, and it's a blessing. So listen to the lesson I teach. I talk sense condensed to a poem before, pulling knowledge to my toes to the top of my dome. I'm kind of young, but my tongue speaks maturity. I'm not a child, only nothing for security. I get paid and the record's played, to put it short. Yo, I got it made. So we gonna go there, you know what I'm saying? We might do a little hip hop, we might do a little reggae. We gonna keep it flowing. So let's see what else we got over here. So like I said, it's interactive. Y'all come in the chat room and we gonna have a good time like that. Check it out. and then we just bring it in. When I'm alone in my room, sometimes I stare at the wall, and in the back of my mind, I hear my conscience call, telling me I need a girl who's as sweet as a dove. But in the first time in my life, I see I need love. Yeah. And then we might freak into something like some Eric B. and Rakim. Yo, thinking of a master plan. This ain't nothing but sweat inside my hands. So I dig into my pocket, all my money is spent, and I dig deeper. Still coming up with lint. So I start my mission, leave my residence, thinking how could I get some dead presidents? I need money. You know how it is? That's what it is. So we're gonna freak it like that. So make sure y'all come out Sundays at 8 p.m. right here on Black Power Media, and we're gonna have a good time, y'all. So that's what it is. So tune in, and let's take it back to the morning show.
Never ever get a seat. Giving you a
Yeah.
That's hardcore right there, man. Yeah, doctor. You know what I'm saying?
Sing some sing-alongs. We do a little karaoke. Everybody get up and dance, have a good time. It's like working out, exercise, and all that stuff. Okay. That's what we do, man.
That's okay. My man DJs, he raps. He used to make
yoga instructor.
Hey, you know what's funny? The only thing I didn't do in hip hop is breakdance. Okay. I pop locked, but I ain't breakdance.
You know what I'm saying? Pop lock is good enough.
Okay. Hey, I'm gonna pass it over to you, Kamal. Take that, Kamal.
Shabadoo.
I got that.
Oh, you gonna pass it over? You can't take us nowhere, man. But that's what it is, man.
We got to have our own verses, by the way. I think when Kim is on this joint, we need to have a little freestyle battle on this joint.
Okay.
That's Dr. versus Kim. Maybe. I might even get in that joint a little bit.
I like it. Let's set that up.
Okay. Call it curses.
No, call it worses.
And now we should have our own versus series.
And now, Mama Biscuits versus.
I'll check you all out tomorrow morning. Peace.
All right, man.
Yeah, doctor. Hey,
anyway, something bad wrong with y'all.
That's definitely the case. But
yes,
listen, a couple things before we get out of here this morning. And again, shout out to all the remixers on all the different platforms. Make sure, as the ear doctor says, you tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to jump in here live. If they're not here today, check out the replay later, and definitely be on live tomorrow morning and Thursday, as well as the Remix Morning Show continues giving you your boom bap breakfast. Sign up for everything at blackpowermedia.org as well. Patreon, the YouTube channel, support as much as you can, spread the word, follow, subscribe, drop your proposals, submission ideas, all kinds of stuff, all at blackpowermedia.org. Definitely do all of that.
No doubt. Shout out to my man Hiram. I heard he did Fat Joe's beard. But anyway, Hiram got a new spray beard shop. You know what I'm saying? Well, shout out my man.
Straight out of what's going on? What is going on there? What is happening there? What is happening there? Yeah, I can't take it.
I don't know,
so first of all, I don't want to see any more Fat Joe, and I'll give you your doctor credit. The lean back track was fire. I much preferred Hassan Salam and Fifth Column's remix of that track years ago called Clapback. And I won't even get into the hook here because I want to make sure we don't get banned. But check that track out; it's much more appropriate and politically relevant. But I would like to hear, if there's going to be verses involving Fat Joe's related crew, I would like to see a verses, even if it's a posthumous thing happening between Biggie and Big Pun. That's a verses I would like to see.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, obviously the way they've been doing these verses is by playing the records come out.
I missed that. Went over my head. I was like, ain't they dead?
President of the Dead Rapper Society.
Checklist of which rappers died. I know they dead.
Yo, lot of mercy. Anyway,
they should get Ja Rule versus Fiddy though. Even though Fiddy killed his career, somebody should give Ja a chance.
Yeah, I mean, well,
that's what they should do.
But
let's give him a chance.
I don't know. I thought about that, but then that Fire documentary. Did y'all see that joint?
I did see it. I saw all of them joints. There's a whole bunch of them. I saw every single one of them. And Ja Rule, I mean, seriously. First of all, before we even get to that, don't forget he violated by having the George Jackson replica Blood in My Eye album cover and album title theft for his anti-50 Cent diss album, which was not only whack politically, whack lyrically, whack stylistically and aesthetically. So for me, Ja Rule has been written off ever since then. You're going to violate George Jackson with your whack album, you know, like that. So, but but go ahead with the fire. I did see all the fire stuff though.
Now, I got to say though, on the real, I mean, you know, Ja Rule. I mean, I'm surprised he even came back. I give Ja Rule credit for audacity because of the fact that he just won't die. It's like his career is not gonna die. He like, fuck it, I got a shot to you on my shit, and I'm just gonna stick around. I don't care what y'all do, what y'all say. But going back to the Biggie Big Pun thing, I'm gonna say this, and it's gonna be unpopular. I love Biggie's delivery. Pun was a better MC.
Get the fuck out of here. I mean, you shouldn't even talk about hip hop no more.
I'm not even. Wait a minute. Hold up, Kamal.
There's nothing you've ever said that's been more offensive than this.
One of the only people. One of the only people
that
gave Black Thought.
You got to go ahead.
We talking lyrics. One of the only people that gave Black Thought a real run for his money was on Super Lyrical with Big Pun. Big Pun is not a game. His joy. I love Biggie. You know what I'm saying? I love Biggie's style and everything. He make words rhyme, but Pun is Super Lyrical. Period.
Pun
is
Biggie's only the greatest rapper of all time, so I don't give a fuck. Right?
Yeah, I mean, of course you're gonna say that.
Of course, he's biggest all time.
I respect that. I respect that, and I have no problem with Biggie being listed as that. But Big Pun is often forgotten and underrated. Don't forget. Did Biggie have anything as good, even as Big Pun's half a verse in that little did we know in the middle of little Italy, diddly, did riddles the middle men who didn't do diddly. Come on, son. I didn't even do it right. That joint is fire.
Wow.
Did Biggie ever have something that got that? Come on, ear doctor.
Come on, man.
Hold
up. This is the LL fan, so hold back. Hold tight, man.
Hold up. Let's not act like Biggie ain't set it off on that. What was it? The handle us. With what's some cats out the Midwest? Bone Thugs and Harmony. He flipped that. He was one of the first to flip that.
Yeah, no, I mean, well,
I'm not dissing Biggie.
But hey, nah.
Come on now.
Pun is the better lyricist.
Yeah, pound for pound, round for
flow.
round.
Yo, Biggie got the better flow though.
I that's debatable. I think
debatable.
Yeah,
he got the better flow.
Yeah, that's lyrically.
You smoking this morning?
You gotta go back, folks.
No smoking in the morning.
You gotta go back and listen to the catalog. You gotta check the catalog. Biggie is way more famous.
Right.
But why? Why is he? Because he was the best rapper of all time.
Hold up now, fame.
The flow.
No. Fame.
No. But his fame came from below. It wasn't the studios didn't put Biggie on top. They were hounding Biggie. It was the flow. It was the streets of Brooklyn that put that nigga on top. What y'all talking about?
Yeah,
Talk that shit about.
Oh, with y'all.
Listen. All I
Brooklyn
know
in the building. Stand up.
All I know is Pun was the beast. Shout out to Big Pun. Shout out to Biggie as well. You know what I'm saying? I love Biggie.
There go that Brooklyn bully. All you gotta do is say something about Biggie and the bully.
You know what I'm saying? He coming out the joint. He know he ain't never listened to. Hey, he popping that shit now.
Wipe his mouth. He leaning it all on the camera.
Hey,
good God.
Hey, look here, man. Pop that shit when they had a Puerto Rican Day parade. Take your ass up there, pop and talk about some Biggie better than Big Pun and see what happened, boy.
See, that's the thing. That's the thing. Every time you talk about these debates about different rappers, who's the best, you got to break it down in the categories of flow. You got to break it down in lyricism. You got to break it down in MC and being able to move the crowd. It's different categories. So if we're talking about straight lyricism, Black Thought is the king. Can we say that?
I'm with you.
I'm not mad at that.
But before you go there, if you go, I was kind of confused because on Father Figure with Black Thought
and Royce the 5'9",
and what's my man name?
And Kobe.
Yeah, Royce ripped that joint right there. You know what I'm saying? I don't think think
But
Black
you
Thought put his all
can't
in that.
name one Royce the 5'9" single.
I
And
agree
that's
with
a
you.
whole nother thing.
Oh, I'm a
Being
Black
known.
Thought fan. In fact,
Black
I think
Thought-
Biggie, I think Jada was better than Biggie. That's just me.
Oh, just a new love for Jada.
Jada
One
Kiss
fucking
better
verses
than
and all
Biggie.
the new love for Jada.
Go
Listen,
back 3
come on
years.
now.
Go back 3 years on the remix. I mean, on Renegade Culture.
Jada this and Jada that.
Pause.
Relax, right? Relax.
Yeah. But you know what? I would like to live on air suggest that we host the Biggie versus Big Pun versus on BPM.
Okay.
I would like to lay out a Big Pun set that challenges whatever Kamal thinks he could put out for Biggie.
Hey, Kamal, I got your back.
You got me. We'll work on this together.
All right, so Jared,
Biggie.
so you hear it live right now. We're gonna have the Big Pun versus Biggie. You know what I'm saying? We gonna call it versus. Oh yeah, the Big Pun versus Biggie. You know what I'm saying? Right
and
on
we can
here.
open up, and we can have it as an opening our freestyle battle. We got to get him in on this, and we'll have a freestyle battle as the opening card.
Okay.
And then the headliner will be Biggie versus Big Pun. I'm dead serious. I want to do
we're gonna do this.
real.
Let's plan that out.
Like next weekend.
Let's plan that out.
Okay.
There's no way. I mean, do like 2 Biggie songs. Everybody be like, okay, that's over. That's the end of that battle.
That's what he thinks.
That's the end of
then
that battle.
hip hop is going to have an answer for you, because I know hip hop will be in the audience, and hip hop understands.
Hey, we gonna be up here like, yo, this MC is goofy. I take out the little rapper gun, Big Uzi.
Hey, yo, hold on. Let me tell you what we do around here when things like that happen. I'm gonna tell y'all how we do this when things like that happen. We'll play that shit around here, man. We'll do that. All right, I'm playing today. I'm doing the Jared Ball joint. Hiram over here keep bombing on me. I'm trying. You better lay low. I'm about to ban myself, man.
Stay out the chat.
Stay out the chat.
Stay out the chat.
We got to have Hiram on as a special guest host, co-host.
You're gonna join me in the chat room penalty box.
Dan.
Keep it up.
Dan. Ricky Ryan, handle Hiram for me. Silberg, holla at him. Anyway,
look, listen. Since we've gone off the rails, let me bring something back real quick, because 2 days ago, September 5th was something that Quiet as Kept, and honestly, I have to admit I didn't do enough this year for it, but Quiet as Kept, something in our household means a little something. As it does for folks around the world. September 5th is the day that around the world it is recognized as International Indigenous Women's Day, promoting empowerment and gender equality. And it's something that I'll get to the personal part in just a second. But it's just again, this is not some politically radical revolutionary. I would it's associated with, if I'm not mistaken, the director of the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, et cetera, and so forth. So I'm not, but I do like that they raised this up, and some interesting things are brought up. First of all, currently, according to data presented by the World Bank, there are approximately 476 million indigenous people in more than 90 countries, constituting more than 6% of the world's population. Furthermore, according to the United Nations, Latin America and the Caribbean is the region with the highest proportion of indigenous people. It is estimated that out of a total of approximately 42 million indigenous, 59% are women. However, women constitute the most oppressed sector, both within indigenous communities and in society in general. So they go on to talk about the commemoration being and why it is that the International Indigenous Women's Day is celebrated on the 5th of September to commemorate the Aymara warrior Bartolina Sisa, who played a key role in the struggle against colonial domination. The aim of this day is to give recognition to all indigenous women who have played and still play an important role in the preservation of indigenous culture. Now, if I may just selfishly real quick, one of the reasons why I like to celebrate this is not only because to appreciate international indigenous women, but specifically, as was mentioned there, Bartolina Sisa is the eponym the source of the name or the date, at least, for commemorating this, because she was killed. She was killed, I believe, on the 5th of September, 1782. And it is her nickname Cisa, or her last name Cisa, or her middle name Cisa, that we've given as a nickname to my oldest daughter when she was born, specifically because of her relationship, that is Bartolina Cisa's, with leading armies and fighting against Spanish colonial rule. And so I definitely appreciated that. And just very quickly, one other that we relate to this for my other daughter is Micaela Bastidas, or Zamba, which is the nickname of my second daughter, because Micaela, who among other things was the wife of Tupac Amaru II, also led armies against Spanish colonial rule and was killed for it. So I liked that we could raise up in our own household these women and those traditions through the nicknames of our daughters, but also, just to, again, I recognize it's a UN, whatever, but just to shout out the fact that there is at least some concern for these women and these histories is, I think, important. Anyway, so just wanted to raise that up real quick.
I want to definitely, say that for folks who haven't studied Bartolina Cisa, definitely go back, check her out. Also, her husband, Tupac Katari, who was named after Tupac Amaru, and his sister, Gregoria, I can't even think of her last name. I think it's Amaza or something like that. But they all were assassinated. Bartolina actually took up, led the revolt against the Spaniards in what is now known as Bolivia after her husband Tupac Katari was captured. And unfortunately, the three of them, Gregoria, Bartolina, and Tupac Katari, they were all 31 years old when they were assassinated. You know what I mean? So you're talking about young freedom fighters. They weren't, a lot of times when you talk about these freedom fighters, you think of, some folks who were old, so on and so forth. Neither one of them made it to age 32.
That's right.
And they all were serious fighters, and they led, revolution against these racist ass Spaniards. And, I think a lot of times when you talk about Europeans, Spaniards are left out of the history, and folks who don't understand that when folks talk about, Spanish people, oftentimes they lump people who are colonized by the Spaniards into the whole Spanish dynamic, and it's not the case. So, the Spaniards were just as much colonizers as the Portuguese and the Brits and all these other motherfuckers. So, And
I also like that the Zamba nickname, by the way, was a recognition of Micaela's African and indigenous heritage. It was a specific reference to that combination, which was another, again, selfish reason for wanting to nickname our own daughter that. But to your point also, and I would also like, by the way, is they led armies. I mean, these were tens of thousands of people that they were leading. So it was no small,
I think 40,000. Yeah, I think he had like 40,000 soldiers. So yeah, like you said, it's not, it's not this bullshit that we be popping off out here. We're arguing about little small ass organizations where we don't have fucking 20, 30 members. And here it is, these folks are leading whole revolts with 40,000 plus men, women, and children that are down for the fight. And again, we're talking about young organizers. We're not talking about, some elders or whatever. They did their work and was in the grave, for lack of better words, by age 31. You know what I mean? So definitely, study, man. Political education is a motherfucker.
Speaking of which, also, I don't know, as we start getting ready to wrap up here, this is something I think we can come back to throughout the week, and as the week even concludes, with this country reminding us of the anniversary of 9/11. But I don't know, have you all been watching? If anybody been watching any of the Spike Lee series on epicenters, where New York is epicenter, both COVID, and then he's switched over to 9/11. And he's going to have a concluding chapter, I think, that drops on 9/11 this week. But it's very interesting. And for those of us who lived through that, for at least for me to be reminded of some of the details. My wife was in New York at the time. Anyway, it's obviously a huge world-changing event, and whatever we think about, who or why or what, but it's all fascinating. Anyway, so I'm just curious if any of you been watching any of that.
I haven't seen a series, but again, speaking of somebody who lived through it, I think I was watching TV, and then you saw the planes hit, and where I lived, Albany Projects, and we were on the 8th floor, and so it's probably something people want to pay millions of dollars for the view. But I looked out my window, and you could see the skyline of Manhattan, literally, the plane smoking, the building smoking, and so forth. And I remember, I'm not going to name this person's name because they got a little bit more moderate, and they got a real job at this stage. But at the time, they called me and they said, "We got the towers. We got the towers." I was like, "What?" I was like, "First of all,
we ain't got shit."
I was like, "We ain't do shit." And you on my phone. I was like, "You are
That's
on
crazy
my phone
talk
right now."
Wow.
Saying, and they backed off or whatever like that. And it was like, so calm down. Look, let's see what happened. But but obviously, what you said, it was obviously that to this day, the trajectory of it still has ramifications, i.e., the United States supposedly ending a war in Afghanistan, where we know they'll still take, with their military might, take the opportunity to bomb and drone anytime they see fit. But the ground troops at least have left. But that, in Iraq, there's still a U.S. presence there based on the lie of weapons of mass destruction that led to their invasion. So these world-changing events have still taken place. And again, the thousands of people who've died under U.S. drones post 9/11, which outnumber any amount. The war in Afghanistan, civilians, over 300,000 people killed because of that war. Quadrupling, whatever, 20 times the amount of folks who died in Americans with no connection whatsoever to 9/11. So all that stuff is still here, current day, has relevance to what's happening in the world today in terms of how military footprints and people who have died because of the U.S. reaction to that those planes crashing. So
I want two things, man, to add on. I want to say, number one, I'm wondering if Spike Lee is going to be selling 9/11 jackets for like $600, like he's doing with the X jackets. You know what I'm saying? That's the first thing.
Wow.
With his little slimy ass. Secondly, I want to say shout out to the comrade Jeremy Glick, who was whose father was killed in the towers during 9/11. He was a firefighter, I believe. And Jeremy went on Bill O'Reilly's show. And Bill O'Reilly wanted to fight him because of the fact that, first of all, he showed up with it. This is a white boy who showed up with a Fred Hampton t-shirt on.
That's
and
right.
Aside from that, he was talking about how criminal the U.S. government was, and talked about, how he didn't have any remorse, more or less, for that particular case. And Bill O'Reilly was like, basically, how dare you? You're a traitor, so on and so forth. And he talked to us about behind the scenes about how this dude literally wanted to get physical with him. You know what I'm saying? But of course,
he said he tried to intimidate him in the hallway because O'Reilly was apparently taller than most people realized. Was trying to, at that time, there was this is way off. This was never going to happen, but there was a brief discussion through some intermediaries that I would be invited to O'Reilly's show right around that time. And I told them, I will go on there and slap his ass in his face on live TV if they put me on there and he pops off like that. And I might have should have not said that, and it might have actually been had a chance of happening. Not likely, but because I don't think I would have ever gone on Fox. But
lucky you ain't know me.
That's where I was. I was like,
drove you there.
I was like, I wish he would try to lean up on me in the hallway. Kid, let's get back on camera, son. I want this to be seen.
I want this assault to be live. Bill O'Reilly.
No, just a good open hand, disrespectful, the kind of slap that demands a fight. You know what I mean?
Like
that's what I was offering.
I really don't understand when you say the type of slap that demands a fight. If a motherfucker slap you, that's like death. That's like
That's what I'm saying.
No fight. Like the fact that you let him slap you is already
Well, but I'm
All you can do
saying,
is-
but if you slap somebody, that is almost, you have to respond.
You have to fight.
It's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
logic.
You have no choice.
So I was like, if I do this live on camera while he's trying to lean in,
you got props and shit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I'd have been certified after that, for sure.
Yeah, most have been scared to come on BPM.
But Spike has alluded.
This is 20 years ago.
I mean,
this is 20 years ago. I'm a much different person.
I mean, hugely controversial, but I think you noted before that Spike has said in these documentaries or alluded to, the idea, again, we call it conspiracy theory sometimes, but that the planes did not go, it wasn't the planes themselves that brought the towers down, that there was something else happening, right? So, yeah.
Well, apparently, and this is what's going to come in the next segment, he's done the first 9/11 segment, which, I mean, look, whatever I think of him politically, he knows how to make a documentary. He can tell a story. He knows how to push buttons and do all the heartstrings, and he knows how to do all of that. But apparently in this next one, he is going to do, it includes interviews he's done with Richard Cage, who is the head of architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth, whose work I have actually become even re-familiar with again after years ago interviewing him on my former radio show. And again, a right-wing Republican, Reaganite Republican, but they look at it from an engineering, and I just watched the new documentary 7 from the filmmaker, one of the filmmakers from the Loose Change documentary that famously hit years ago about Building 7, where they talk to engineers, architects, and strictly on the level of science and method and data, argue that what they say on 9/11 could not physically happen. That there is no instance before or after 9/11 where protected steel structures could be brought down from a plane hitting or from a fire, because even jet fuel doesn't burn. I mean, they go into all this. It doesn't. So it's a very compelling argument, is my point. That you have these buildings falling in free fall, and the 7 documentary, the engineer they talked to says at least 8. No, he says actually all of the inner columns were destroyed simultaneously, and then a few seconds later, all of the outer columns were destroyed simultaneously, and that is the only way you could have the building fall as it did. So then, that cannot happen from a fire.
What is the suggestion then of what that means, right? So what is that? So it's the suggestion.
They don't go that far, and that's what I appreciate.
Yeah. But I mean, what is the theory? The theory behind it is
their theory is that. Yeah. I'm sorry, but their theory, they stop at the level of saying these buildings were brought down by controlled demolition with explosives that were pre-existing, pre-planted, pre-arranged, and at the bottom, and they have people on hand, people there who make this claim. They get into audio. They get into science data, from audio, from visual, from the chemicals that were found in the dust, and so that's where they stop, as far as I'm aware. They say, look, the dominant narrative can't be. It has to have been controlled demolition. It points to something that would have to come from not people in caves in Afghanistan or wherever, but from military grade thermite and other technology that is very high level and powerful. And that would do the damage that we saw on 9/11, and that's where they stop. They don't get into the who or the what.
They do say that the planes. They do say that the planes actually hit the building, though. That was
they don't dispute that.
Yeah.
In fact, and that's part of their argument. They're saying that this is the part of what they use to make their point, that no plane crashing could do this. So they're saying the planes hit, but that I'm filling this in and paraphrasing, and I'm saying that they're saying that this is the pretext to cover the pre-existing blasts and explosives that were already there, because the planes could not have done this.
Hey, man, I'd like to say, as we wrap up, that, this is going to be a heavy duty week. It's the 50th anniversary of the Attica Rebellion happening this week. So we will have some folks talking about that. Also, we're definitely going to hop back into this whole 9/11 situation because of the fact that we know a number of different people who've been outspoken in regards to this particular historical event. I can't lie, and I'm sure many folks felt the same when we saw that particular institution, when we were watching it on television. It was a different feeling, shall I say. You understand what I'm saying? Because of the fact that it represents the towers themselves. It represents capitalism. It represents this immoral ass country. So, oftentimes, man, we look at whatever you know, as the symbolism of it, you know, as you know, almost like a victory, man. Just like, you know, and that's not, you know, not the people, you know what I'm saying? You know, we definitely concerned with human lives, but just the symbolism of this imperialist as state, this system, you know, itself. So, our condolences to the families, you know, but it'd be nice when they finally come out with the truth and say what really happened, because I agree. I don't think that just those planes hitting that building the way it did, you know, I don't even see the mathematical probability of it going down like that, you know.
Well, yeah. I think I'm gonna look for somebody that as a. I mean, I'm not a scientist. I've not checked it out. I think there was a lot of things being hidden around who actually is responsible in terms of the connections to the Saudi government and so forth, so as not make any backlash against Saudi Arabia, but to direct that back, to direct the abilities of the government to go after Al Qaeda. But I always said, I mean, my estimation of it is that my feeling is, right, I can only speak on that, was that it wasn't some government conspiracy to bring down the towers to allow them to invade, that America got hit. And massive loss, 3,000 people lost their lives. Terrible. I'm not by any means justifying or thinking that was proper or anything, but America got hit. And that sometimes you got to say that it's not the country. It can be vulnerable, right? It's because otherwise, again, I think sometimes when folks make everything a government conspiracy, it's almost like saying, it's like these Illuminati things, that everything is controlled and the government is ultra powerful and it plans these steps out so well in advance. And so there's never really an opening for it to get hit. And I think part of my thinking on it is, this government, just like any government, right, can obviously lose wars, get hit. It's not impenetrable. And I think that that sometimes has to be understood in terms of any sort of fight against it. And because I think otherwise we build it up to be never vulnerable, all knowing, all powerful. And I think that becomes scary in terms of activism and organizing. So again, I'm not any engineering expert on how the towers went down or whatever, but I think we should have a good discussion with some experts who on both sides, about how, like, what they think led to the towers falling down. Because I do think there's obviously a huge pushback against the quote unquote official stories, because there's obviously also a lot of information about how the United States lies and sets up official stories to cover up its own actions and so forth. So, yeah.
Yep, I agree. Definitely, everything is, everything's vulnerable, everything can be hit, and also in the words of Kwame Nkrumah, we claim no easy victory. So may the struggle continue. Cabral. Oh, yeah. Look at that. I got so caught up on the handbook. I'm still thinking about
let's grab all of them. We can quote all of them. They were all right on some of it. So look, there's a lot more to say about this. There's a lot more I'd like to say about this, but I like where you were with it, with the political part, Kamal. I just at this point, my rabbit hole, I just need this science dealt with. I don't want the why and the who. Mm-hmm. Not that I don't care, but just in this particular moment, I'm very interested on this the science part of it. But anyway, let's look. Obviously, a lot more to say. We'll keep saying it and looking into it here at the RemiX and Black Power Media. Thanks again to I don't know what's going on here. I don't know.
Was that the open hand slap? That was the open hand slap.
Is that the slap? Okay.
That was worse than open hand slap.
Anyway, I can't wait for Sister May to be back in control of this program. This is what happens when you
we be fucking up. But anyway,
peace, everybody, because we know you're willing to fight for it. Like Fred Hampton, we'll catch you tomorrow morning right here at the RemiX Black Power Media. Peace, everybody.
Blah. Yes.